Hello everybody, welcome to another night video and welcome to the start of my 2017 CONCACAF Gold Cup predictions, analysis, and preview. Well, not in that order. Preview, analysis, and predictions. I'm going to start with Group A. Promise to make 3 videos of 15 minutes long, so let's jump right in. So in Group A, we have Costa Rica, Honduras, Canada, and French Guiana. Now, the draw for this tournament, Honduras were a seeded team. I disagreed with that. I think the 3 best teams in CONCACAF are Mexico, the United States, and Costa Rica. I would have preferred to have seen Costa Rica seeded, but the fact they ended up in the same group with Honduras as opposed to with Mexico, the United States, I guess makes the draw sort of balance out. So, looking at Honduras, I looked at their squad that they're taking to this tournament, and just to give up a few names, Minor Figueroa, Alfred Mejia, Romel Kyoto, Boniek Garcia, Albert Elise, Brian Bekeles, and Donis Escobar. So these names that Coach Jorge Luis Pinto is taking to this tournament are pretty much in line with a squad you would expect to see Honduras in a major competition. And a lot of them are Honduras' main starters that you would see in a World Cup or you would see in World Cup qualification. So Honduras is taking this tournament seriously, it seems. The only 2 major sides in CONCACAF that seem to be bringing B teams are the United States and Mexico. So, who should I start? I'm going to start with Honduras, since I already mentioned them. Honduras, the goal for Honduras is simply to better their result from their 2015 Gold Cup disaster, where they finished in dead last and crashed out with 1 point, I believe for the first time in 3 or 4 Gold Cup cycles. Honduras is not doing that well in Gold Cup qualifying. In World Cup qualifying, they sit in 5th with a difficult schedule remaining. Games against the United States and Mexico to come, albeit both at home, but still very difficult games. They're in a position where they may not qualify for the World Cup. They've qualified for the last 2, but the focus here heading into the summer is to put on a better performance than they did 2 years ago, so as to lift up the spirit of the team and to get them ready and prepared heading into September's CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. Since we're heading into the home stretch this September, there's only 4 more games to play, so Honduras wants to make the most of this tournament, and they are with regional rivals Costa Rica in this group. Costa Rica, believe it or not, has a pretty poor recent history in the Gold Cup. You would think, being one of the best teams in CONCACAF, and given the stellar performance they put on at the World Cup a few years ago, that they would shine in regional tournaments. But that's not really been the case. Costa Rica has not reached a Gold Cup final since 2002. They have never won the Gold Cup. No team has ever won the Gold Cup other than the United States, Mexico, and I believe Canada won it once, and I'll get to Canada in a second. But for Costa Rica has not even gotten to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Gold Cup in recent years. I believe the last time they got there was the early 2000s. So, in a group where they are the best team, where they are better than regional rivals Honduras, it's actually been Honduras who has been defying expectations and going farther into this tournament than Costa Rica have. Honduras have made, I believe, 3 of the last 4 Gold Cup semifinals. So for Costa Rica, they want to improve upon their really mediocre Gold Cup performance, especially in 2015, where they advanced out of their group with 3 draws, no wins, and they were eliminated by Mexico through very controversial fashion in the quarterfinals. There was a lot of problems with the coaching and the staff, especially with assistant manager who took over from Jorge Luis Pinto from the World Cup, Paulo Wanchope, who really did not continue on the success of his predecessor, and that led to his sacking and led to the current coach, Oscar Ramirez, who now has the task of taking Costa Rica far into this competition. I believe Paulo Wanchope got into a heavy fight on the sidelines during that last Gold Cup, and he had to be sent off. Yeah, not good. Some key players for Costa Rica are Johnny Acosta, Brian Ruiz, Joel Campbell, Randall Azofefa, Christian Gamboa, Michael Umania. So there are a couple of names here that are not included, including that of Keylor Navas, the Real Madrid goalkeeper and Costa Rica international. He will not be in this tournament, but given the squad that has been named for it, for this Gold Cup, I believe Costa Rica will be taking it seriously. They are not treating it in the same manner that Mexico and the United States are doing. And that's not to criticize or mock Mexico or the United States at all. I mean, Mexico's B team and the United States B team, both of them can definitely win this cup. But for Costa, I don't want to get into there. That's another day. But for Costa Rica, the goal here is to at least get to the semifinals. You have to get to the semifinals. For a team that's as talented as Costa Rica, being the best Central American side, you would expect them to finish in the Final Four regularly in the Gold Cup, since they are part of the Holy Trinity, in my opinion, of the three best sides in CONCACAF, the other two being Mexico and the United States. So Costa Rica really needs to step it up. They need to shine where they've really have underwhelmed. Going on to French Guiana. French Guiana is most likely the weakest team in this tournament, not just in this group. They are actually a South American country, and they have qualified for this tournament because, for the first time, by the way, they are debutants, because they are a member of CONCACAF. Now, there are a few countries in South America that are members of CONCACAF, the others being Guyana and Suriname, but they don't play in CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying for obvious reasons, probably because they would get smoked. Soccer is still a very developing sport in those countries. It's very far behind. So they compete in CONCACAF with several other Caribbean island nations, and I think they even participate in Caribbean Cups. French Guiana finished third in the most recent Caribbean Cup. We really should not expect them to do much in this group. They're just going to enjoy themselves. This is a new experience for them. It's a new broadening, a new horizon, and the goal for them here is probably to score, and to lessen as much damage control as they possibly can. I don't see French Guiana getting a single point from this group. I do think they're going to finish in last with 0. But some key players, Cedric Fabian, Florent Malouda, Kevin Romane, Roy Contout, and Paris Saint-Germain B players, Sloan Privat and Rudy Evans. Oh no, excuse me, Kevin Romane, I think, plays for Paris Saint-Germain B. But French Guiana's primary 2 goal scorers that they will look to find them back in the net, if they can grab anything in this group, are Sloan Privat and Rudy Evans. And fun fact, Florent Malouda is a former France national team international who has taken the reins of the French Guiana national side. I think he's allowed to play due to dual citizenship or being from that country ethnically, I'm not sure. But he captained France at the 2010 World Cup in South Africa and was a World Cup finalist 4 years before, earlier in 2006, along with Zinedine Zidane. So we have a former World Cup finalist actually in this tournament, the only one, in Florent Malouda. So it's going to be interesting to see how someone who used to be part of a national side that is one of the best in the world really assumes the role of leadership for a team that is really one of the world's minnows. And then we have, should we mention, French Guiana also plays for a lot of the lesser leagues in France. And I think all of their players they're sending to this tournament, all of them either play in some of the lower divisions in France or in Guyana. And I believe one of them plays for a Moroccan club, if I'm not mistaken. So then we have Canada. Canada. Frustrating team to watch. Canada has not scored a single goal in the last 2 editions in their appearances. In the Gold Cup in 2013 and 2015. They crashed out in the group stages in both of them. So 1 goal for Canada here will be to find goals. For Canada, this is a team that typically doesn't score a lot of goals, not just in CONCACAF Gold Cups, but even in World Cup qualifying. They don't find the back of the net very often. If you see a Canada match where they score more than once. It's a little bit uncommon, and I don't mean this to put them down or to knock them down or undermine them or anyway. But on the upside, in CONCACAF in recent years, Canada doesn't really seem to be conceding that many goals. There was that embarrassment in the 2014 World Cup cycle where they lost on the road in Honduras 8-1, completely blown out. But since then, Canada has remained relatively competitive with the rest of Central America. So Canada's goal is to get out of this group and challenge for that second spot. I don't think Canada will win this group, but I think they can just about squeeze out second ahead of Honduras. Them and Honduras, there's a little bit of history between them. Honduras has eliminated them from each of the last two World Cup qualifying cycles, a blowout in the 2014 cycle, like I just said, and a very, very narrow elimination just last year in 2016 for the 2018 World Cup cycle. So there's a bit of history between Canada and Honduras, and I think their last group match is going to be one of the most, if not the most important game of Group A for this year's CONCACAF Gold Cup. I think that match will determine who comes out of this group within the top two spots. And that's going to be very interesting to watch. And you know what? I think Canada can get a little bit of revenge here. Some key players for Canada are Toysant Ricketts, Mandrakar James, Marcel de Jong, Milan Borjan, and Patrice Bernier. And honestly, the quirky thing about this group, and for this tournament for that matter, is that the second place team from Group A has an easier path, technically, to the final than the winner of Group A, because the winner of Group A plays the runner-up of Group B. And you look who's in Group B, it's most likely going to be the United States or Panama. So, while the runner-up of Group A will play the runner-up of Group C, and you look at Group C, and you have to think to yourself, other than Mexico, all those teams are beatable for the runner-up in Group A. So, if Canada can capitalize on a Honduran team that's been struggling lately, we could see an opening for the Group A runner-up, potentially Canada, making a run to the semifinals. You look at the bracket for the knockout stages of this Gold Cup. I have a few criticisms regarding how it's set up that I don't like, but I'll mention in another video, probably in my knockout stage predictions, which will probably come on Friday, God willing. But it is actually more convenient for a team to finish runners-up in this group. So, what do I think is going to happen? Well, I think that Costa Rica, Honduras, and Canada will all rack up the 3 points against French Guiana. They don't do that, they're in trouble. It's all a matter, in my opinion, of who runs up the score against the minnows of this group, with all due respect to French Guiana. Some predictions in this group, I do think French Guiana will score. I don't think they'll get shut out in all their games. Maybe they'll find 1 or 2 goals, maybe more, if they put in a great showing, or if they get lucky a little bit. Or if one of the other sides slip up. But I'm going to pick Costa Rica to top this group. That's going against history here. History says that Honduras has the upper hand on Costa Rica in this tournament. But I'm going to go with the Ticos to finally get over that hump, win Group A. I think they'll top it with 7 points, because I think that opening match against Honduras is going to be a draw. Second, tricky. Part of me wants to go with Canada to get revenge on Honduras, but I think that match is going to be a draw. And I think Honduras will come out of this group with 5 points from a win and 2 draws. I think Canada will come out of here with 4 points, but Canada will advance. They will advance as one of the best third-place teams, because in this tournament, the 2 best third-place sides go through. French Guiana finishes in last with 0 points. So my predictions for Group A, the CONCACAF Gold Cup 2017, Costa Rica wins the group, advances. Honduras in second advances. Canada in third advances. French Guiana out. Oh, peace.